turn, but did a nice job of it. They got good acceleration.
Well, Jimmy Dean's a pretty experienced veteran of these competitions, is he not?
Oh, yeah. Very well seasoned and always right in there.
Solid run for Nancy and Jimmy Dean.
Yeah, a little stumble there at the turn into the tunnel. And then after exiting, they could have turned a little sooner to set up a better line for that jump. You can see the slip and almost a collision there. That probably cost them the time they needed to take the lead.
Marcy Mantell and Wave on the course now. Scooting right along.
Yeah, they've got tremendous speed going.
Boy, quite a burst there.
Yeah, very, very, very fast. A little bit shorter stride than some of the other dogs because it's a smaller dog, but they definitely have the quickness and the speed going here. A lot of lift over the jumps, too.
There goes the pole.
If you look back at that, we'll see a lot of lift over those two jumps leading into the one where he jumped shallow and took that pole down. Nice high jump there and came in low there. Jumped a little early.
Well, that's all it takes, one error to put you out of the running here at the Grand Prix of Dog Agility. Now, here are the winners of the 16-inch class. Let's take a look at the final standings. In first place, Ashley Deacon with Luca, followed in second place by Karen Hollick and Sizzle, and in third place, Lori Michaels and Sky. A spread of just 5/100ths of a second between first and second place, 4/100ths between second and third place. Let's move on to the 22-inch class here in the Grand Prix of Dog Agility with Nancy Guys and Mace entering the field.
Very good acceleration off the start and through the sequence. Look at that exuberance just leaping out of that tunnel.
Boy, exuberance is the word. Trying to rein in all that energy is half the battle.
There you go. It caught up with her. She was starting to get a little nervous, over-controlling perhaps, and dog ended up pulling out of the poles.
Now, there's still time to make up.
Well, she's got the 5-point penalty for the wee poles, so first round of the day. Didn't give a real solid marker for others to come in behind, but you can expect that our winners today will be zero-fault rounds. We look back at this, we're going to, we saw the dog showing a tremendous amount of energy and drive, very fluid round, and on the dog walk, Nancy exercised a little control on that downside, and it's where it started to come unglued quickly as they entered the poles.
Well, here's a veteran with plenty of experience at the Cenosport World Games, Susan Garrett and Encore. Susan hailing from Ontario, Canada.
Yeah, the dog kind of landed into the feet there. That has to do with the timing of the move of the handler through the sequence, and a lot of the handlers are getting in the dog's path as they cross on the backside of that jump.
He's got so much energy, he really got a little ahead of himself going into the weave poles as well.
Well, it's very difficult to keep up with dogs like this, and it's all about the training.
Well, Susan does a pretty good job, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
It's obvious the love she has for the animal.
Yeah, and that was a below 30-second round, so that is a very high standard for these other dogs and handlers to come in to beat.
Well, we'll see how it holds up out on the course now. Stephanie Spire and Rage.
Again, this dog swang wide, trying to make that approach to the pipe tunnel. So it loses about a stride of distance and the time with it.
Boy, and at this level, one stride can mean the difference between first and second place.
Yeah, with the spacing out there, some of these turns were pretty tough for the small dogs, and it's even tougher for the big dogs to keep that speed going as they work through those turns. Here you can see the dog goes right out across in front of her and has to come back to go into that tunnel. It's just a very short distance, and having the right landing point is the key.
Koji Nanba with Pisca out on the course now. Koji hailing from Japan.
You notice he's handling back and pulling the dog over to the tunnel by working the front side. And most of our handlers, when they've done that, they have actually helped draw the dog into the tunnel more naturally than trying to turn the dog from in front of the dog. So these rear crosses are actually seem to be working a little better for most of the handlers.
Yeah, you know, there's quite a few participants from Japan here at the Sport World Games, but they really haven't done all that well in the placing so far.
Well, the Japanese have some very highly competitive teams, and you're right, they haven't done that well here this year in the finals.
You can probably chalk some of that up to jet lag, really.
Well, you could, but they've been here enough years now to get acclimated to that. They just haven't quite figured out how to pull it together in this final round.
Daryl, Stover, and Envy, a little bit hit and miss here on their round. Yeah, Daryl and Envy actually turned in a really, really good time, under 30 seconds, but those faults are going to cost
Yeah,
them.
here he leaps up over the yellow on the dog walk, and he missed the downside of the A-frame, and he just needs to work on those contacts a little bit.
Anzar on the course now with a border collie named Skylar.
Yeah, he's very animated, and some of that animation needs to be turned into some forward active energy. He had a pretty good stride and cadence through that last sequence, but I just think some of the erratic movements early on cost him the time. And here you can see where that fault came from. Dog steps off to the side of the ramp, getting the fly-off call.
Here's Donna Rojas and Mick. Donna and Mick hail from Pennsylvania. Turning in a good performance so far.
Yeah, this 22-inch class is a very highly competitive class, and the dogs that are in here all came in with 0 fault rounds.
Oh my goodness.
Man. Refusal there at the last jump.
And you can see what happened. Just simply missed the cue to go over the jump. That's unfortunate. Up on the course now is Brittany McNeil and Risk from Oregon.
Oh, we got another fly-off there. That one was real obvious with the probably more than the foot showing. You notice, too, every time the handler works the dog on that turn, the dog has to slow down.
You know, they've got some great speed.
Yeah, but they really have to get these turns all very efficient, or they won't come out on top.
And into the home stretch. 32.14.
Now here you can see that fly off very clearly. The dog just kind of slides off the end, gets around behind the handler.
Rafael Quinones on the course now with Indy, a border collie. I think Rafael is our only participant from Puerto Rico.
Well, we have a whole team here from Puerto Rico. He's the only one that made it into these finals. Oh, and he jumped in there for a refusal, entering between poles 2 and 3. Yeah, it looks like those problems there slowed him down a bit. We've lost some speed going in here to the final sequence.
Well, it looks like they're trying to kick it back in here right at the end, though.
Now here you see as they make their move to the weave poles, the dog overruns it, comes in between 2 and 3. He tries to get back quickly, but the damage has already been done.
Bridget McKnight and Molly on the course now.
Oh, there's an off course. Dog runs out past the opening and follows through on entering the tunnel, but from the wrong end, gets him the elimination for the wrong course.
So they'll finish out the round, but unfortunately, today is not the day for Bridget McKnight.
Yeah, if you look here, she makes her move towards the tunnel. The handler backs away trying to get over the dog walk sooner. It pulls the dog into the run out position and into the wrong end of the tunnel.
Here's Sarah Johnson and Rav. Rav, a border collie here in the 22-inch class of the Grand Prix of Dog Agility.
Now here's a little bit smoother transition into that tunnel, and again the handler chooses to work the foreground instead of on the back side, and that seems to make a big difference to the dogs.
Yeah, good round so far.
Very nice. They've got some good speed here in the late going, and if they had had that in the early going, I think they would have had a little bit better time.
31.94 seconds for Sarah Johnson and Rav.
Yeah, they had a good fast round most of the way, but I think that early going cost them the extra split seconds they needed to get in a better position.
Let's see how Quick can do, handled by Kate Moreau. Quick living up to his namesake so far.
Yeah, here Katie works the front side of that turn, and again, it's very smooth by comparison to those who choose to handle it on the back side.
Yeah, very snappy through the weave poles. And he just keeps, even when he's in the air, you know how he's keeping his eye right on that handler.
Yeah, they're very in tune and turn in a very good round. Yeah, I like the way she handled this turn, and she's out ahead of the dog as they make their way to the dog walk. They're also in contention for selection for our world team to compete in Belgium next year.
Superb. Here's Annie Pyle on the course now with Split.
Here you can see the eagerness in the dog, and this certainly is one of the things that draws so many people to the Border Collie. They can see that intense working ability there. But we're not getting the speed here in the opening sequence. But it's a very long strided dog, so he can make up for some of this as we go. And there's an example where they got a good turn from working that back side of the jump.
Now, is a longer strided dog more likely to have trouble with, for example, the exit on the walk or the A-frame?
Yeah, they can have problems with those contacts. In fact, there it looked like he just reached to the ground, but I think a rear leg may have touched that zone.
Well, looking at the score, it looks like that exit was actually clean. It was very close.
Yeah, I think a rear foot touched into the yellow, which is all that it takes to avoid the penalty.
Caitlin Asher on the course now.
Good burst of speed from a lying down position. We got a pole down there at number 2.
This is Gadget, yet another Border Collie.
You see a little bit of a slowdown on the turn there to the tunnel.
Well, it seems like these dogs with so much energy, you know, just managing those spurts of speed and then bringing them back down to earth seems to be a big part of the art of handling.
Yeah, and trying to keep it even throughout the round, I think, is a bigger factor.
And they turned in a decent time, 30.09.
Here you can see the pole down on jump number 2. It just lands those back feet right on it.
Alicia Nicholas and Pickle now entering the course. Alicia is quite a veteran of these events.
Yeah, she's been in this for the last couple of years. Just have to see how she can put it together this year. A little bit of slide there as they made their way into the tunnel. And she stayed on this back side again and drew the dog right into the tunnel, about as smooth as it can be done. They let the dog get away from her there on that turn. And the dog's scooting wide a little bit there, but they still have tremendous speed going around. So it may not hurt them too bad.
Yeah, they still broke 30 seconds. They will probably place. No faults. That's a tremendous performance.
She's really hustling down the dog walk and controlled the contacts.
Diane Sanders coming onto the course now with a Border Collie named Jet. Little tentative on the seesaw.
Yeah, she just slowed it all down there on that turn into that tunnel. I think for most of these rounds, that turn into the pipe tunnel is a deciding factor.
Oh, early off the A-frame.
Just jumped right over that yellow. 5 faults. Good time overall.
Yeah, but you just can't afford those faults.
She got a good launch onto the ramp, and there you can see it as she's directing out to the jump. The dog leaps over the yellow.
Lisa Dewey and Rush entering the course now. This is the Grand Prix of Dog Agility at the Cena Sport World Games, 22-inch class.
And it went a little wide. The dog had to come back to the tunnel.
A little sloppy off the end of the A-frame there.
Well, that angle over to the jump is the handlers have to push out quickly or the dog risks overrunning and not being able to make that turn. It's one of the difficult parts of this course.
And look at that. That same fault we've seen repeatedly today. Here's Mark Bowerman with Sybil. Boy, good coordination there on the turn.
Yeah, Mark's pulling it together pretty well here. Mark and Sybil have won this class before, and they're trying to do it again. We get a fault off the A-frame, take them out of the running.
That's too bad.
Yeah, in each of these cases, you can see the handler clearly trying to direct the dog out to the hurdle following the A-frame, and that's taking the dog's eye off of the task at hand, which is to touch that yellow zone before proceeding on.
Here's Rhonda Carter and Blast, who took the championship last year in this event.
Yeah, they had a controversial call over the seesaw last year, and they're trying to overcome that with a win here today. Oh, and a pole down, and that certainly threw off everything.
Oh, that's
wrong course through the tunnel.
So Rhonda Carter and Blast eliminated, unfortunately. They'll go ahead and finish out their run. Boy, really early on those jumps.
You can hear the encouragement from the crowd just to keep going. Everybody is very supportive in this sport. There you can see it. And just the dog took the pole down. She had her direction over to the dog walk. The dog went wide and went right into the tunnel.
Svetlana Tumanova up next on the course.
Yeah, she's one of 2 competitors here from Russia this year.
Working with a border collie named Arago.
The Russians turn in some good performances when they come. They're very good at traveling and turning in those good performances. You see the efficient turns. Very good training program. And there's that A-frame.
Yeah,
again.
and a pole
and
down
a pole
as well.
down on that hurdle.
When it rains, it pours, huh?
Just a stroke of bad luck there.
Let's go back and take a look.
Yeah, she's guiding the dog through the turn, trying to get ahead on the A-frame. Again, you can see him trying to focus out, but dog non-responsive to touching that yellow before moving on.
Amanda Shine and Dilly on the course now. Hopefully they'll do a little better.
And right off the bat, we've got 5 faults. Good turn coming around that jump to the tunnel. Yeah, you see a slowdown coming off the ramp there. She was a little slow catching up to the dog.
Yeah, that sort of stuttery thing when the dog has to stop and check in with the handler can really cost him a lot of time.
Here you see jumping, pull down. Nice seesaw performance to finish it out, but that pull down just quick end to the whole round.
Here's Lynn Kahn and Jock.
May get the fly-off call there, stepping off the end before it touched.
Yeah, is it my imagination, or am I seeing a lot more of those early exits and fly-offs than we saw last year?
Well, because they know they have to have a clear round and time will be the deciding factor. They're really pushing the envelope, and just pushing a little too much at the wrong time can get the dog to slide off.
Which is how it should be. This is the creme de la creme event, the Grand Prix of Dog Agility.
Yeah, here's a look at that fly-off again. just right off the end, and they get tangled up a little bit. Dog misdirected.
And on the course now, Jerry Hernandez and Focus.
All of our handlers in this class are doing a pretty good job with this sequence to the seesaw. We haven't seen the refusals like we saw earlier. There's a little bit of a slip. Dog having to turn. I think when the handlers handle on the backside, they're not getting enough advanced signal to the dog of where they've got to go next.
Well, and that's part of the skill there is how close do you stay to the dog? How far do you get ahead?
Yeah, and trying to get up in there, perhaps some of them are thinking they can, try to block the dog from taking the wrong course on the backside of number 15. Watch her position here between the two jumps, and you can see the dog having to make the abrupt turn to avoid her. And here you can see in the times we had less than a half a second separating first and third, with only 200ths separating second and third place.
Stephanie Spire and Rage, followed by Jerry Hernandez and Focus. In third place, Susan Garrett and Encore. Let's move right on into the 26-inch class of the Grand Prix of Dog Agility here at the Sport World Games. Lisa Marie Bowers kicking it off with Slick.
We're going to be looking to see how these larger dogs handle these turns. We've seen the smaller dogs and still even the 22-inch dogs struggle a little bit with maintaining efficient turns because of the spacing of the obstacles out there. Looks like they're slowing down a little bit for those turns, a little more than we saw in the last class. He's turning out wide on some of these. This is a long-strided dog, of course. And here you can see the 5 faults were incurred on the upside of the dog walk. The approach leaps up and over, drawing the signal.
Jen Pinder and Soda on the course now, here in the 26-inch class. Oh, my goodness.
There's a classic run out for the penalties, and just got up behind her. They're just not in sync today. And you saw the judge's hand up there in the background. She missed the upside of the contact on the dog walk also. Just not in sync. So much of the sport is getting mentally set at the start line, and even then sometimes something happens very early on that just puts you off. And I'm sure she thought that this turn into the jump would be easy, but you can see her line across the front of the jump. The dog chose to do that instead of following the signal over the jump.
This is Chieko Kobayashi from Japan with Shishi B.
Oh, misdirection there. She got held up behind the jump that time, and that's where working that front side did not
There's another hand up on the part of the judge.
You see the dog turning wide there, having to come back to the jump. Looks like she's giving late signals. There you can see the dog had all 4 on the ground before the signal came out. That's often what gives rise to these refusals that we're seeing here.
Now, that was not a refusal, though. That was an off course, was it not, at the jump?
They ran around the backside. There's no off-course penalty there.
Oh, okay.
It's just 5 faults for the refusal.
Well, a lot of mistakes for Chieko Kobayashi. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
I think some of the stress of the round probably just caught up with them.
Here's Stuart Ma and Quick, multi-year veterans of this event.
You can see how he kind of pulled to the right to be sure his dog got directed over that jump. Nice job there. Oh, and a little high over the dog walk.
Help me out, Ken. What's the distinction between a whistle and a hand? Or is
the
it...
judge is signaling with the hands for standard faults and refusal faults. Those are both worth 5 penalty points each. Of course, the whistle is elimination, and they get no score. Here again, you can see the upside of the dog walk coming. Dog gathers and just leaps right up over.
Up next, Kerry Jones and Jive.
We're seeing a similar pace on that opening sequence. So I think these dogs, the difference is being made late in the course. Of course, we've been seeing a lot of these missed contacts on the dog walk and the A-frame. It's a real tough course for these larger dogs.